Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining me again this evening. I hope you guys are having just a wonderful weekend out there. And holy smokes, what are we seeing in this Stanley Cup final so far, guys? What an electric first two games. You honestly can't ask for anything more than what we've seen in these two games, both overtimes, both just epic, classic finishes, star players coming out to play. As much as I bemoaned the conference finals, both in the East and the West, being a little boring, let's say, uh, man, hockey is definitely making up for it here in the Stanley Cup final. Awesome game last night, a game where I was quite honestly tired at 8 o'clock. And I remember looking at my kid and I said, I just hope this thing just ends in regulation so I can get a good night's sleep. And famous last words goes to double overtime. I was not complaining though. But of course, we have a 5-4 Panthers victory in double overtime. Let's look at the goal scores in this one. Going to that first period, Sam Bennett with his 13th of the playoffs at the 2:07 mark. Evander Kane answering at 7:39. Bouchard makes it 2-1 at the 9:19 mark. Seth Jones on just a goal we'll talk about. Just a bad one for Edmonton to give up there at 11:37. And then Leon Draisaitl making it 3-2 at the 12:37 mark on a power play. Again, another play we'll talk about here in a moment. Moving into the second period, it was all Florida. Kulikov at the 8:23 mark ties it up at 3-3. Brad Marchand, classic shorthander for him, making it 4-3. And then, of course, you go to the third at the 19:42 mark. It's Corey Perry tying it up, sending it to overtime. And once again, in double overtime, Brad Marchand winning the game 5-4. Shots on goal in this one, everybody. Florida with 42 shots. That's 10 in the first, 15 in the second, 5 in the third, 12 combined in the overtime. Edmonton, 46 shots, 14 in the first, 8 in the second, 10 in the third, and 14 in the overtimes. Florida was 1 for 4 on the power play. Edmonton 1 for 6. Face-off circle, 54.3% for Florida, 45.7% for the Edmonton Oilers. Second game in a row where Florida has led in that category. That first period was just, a chippy, just messy slog of a period, right? I mean, exciting hockey, 5 total goals scored. So, yes, good stuff there, but far from the prettiest thing we've ever seen. 11 players were called for penalties that led to 7 actual special team situations. And it was just a little bit of everything, some roughing calls, some cross checking, some holding the stick, etc. Just it was kind of a mess. Of course, the one that we'll give some attention to is the goalie interference call against Sam Bennett. That was at the 12:13 mark. I was somewhat surprised by the call because, to my eyes, that Combe created the contact, pushing Bennett into Skinner. I genuinely thought they may just reverse that call. Bennett's non-goalie interference from game one actually looked more like a penalty than this one, to my eyes. So I guess in terms of all things being equal, Edmonton, you got one back on them here. And it's because of that power play, it does lead to that goal at the 12:37 mark, Draisaitl from McDavid and Bouchard, and it breaks, that 2-2 tie. So it gives Edmonton the lead. So, yeah, a little bit of a surprising one there. But, there again, Sam Bennett right in the middle of it. Before this, at the 11:37 mark, it was that second Florida goal by Jones, and one I really didn't like. Nothing good happened for Edmonton on that play. Poorly defended, and Skinner looked just very, very slow, trying to get back over to cover his net. Ultimately, isn't able to. Jones essentially had the Atlantic Ocean to shoot at on that play. Just looked ugly. You'll never have a more wide open shot than that. And a really key moment in this first period was going back to the 5-on-3 opportunity for Edmonton, 5-on-3 power play. Florida killing that off was absolutely huge towards the end of that period and probably gave them some life and confidence going into the second period. Moving into that second period, it was once again dominated by the Panthers, very similar to how the Panthers handled the second period in game one. Big advantage on the shots on goals. I think it ended up being 15-8. They won about every board battle, which led to more pucks in their own zone. Their passing was crisp and accurate, which we know helps you play faster and smoother brand of hockey. It was very efficient, very effective period, probably Florida's best period of the series so far. The Kulikov goal at 8:23. Was there interference on Tkachuk on that one or not? I thought it was very, very close, very much on the line for me, very much a 50-50 play. I can see why Knobloch didn't challenge it, maybe a little gun shy from last time. And sure, it's possible Florida just maybe gets away with another one, right? Maybe they do. But they are just so good at that. They're so good at playing right on that line and getting away with it just enough of the times to make it, effective. Uh, and of course, after this, something us Bruins fans have seen a lot of over the years is Brad Marchand at the 12:09 mark breaks the tie with just an absolutely beautiful shorthanded goal, beating Skinner 5-hole on a breakaway. He was able to sneak behind the Edmonton players there sitting on the blue line and had no problems finishing that one. Of course, we know shorthanded goals are always a momentum swing, but man, when you think about where this game goes from here, right? You end up in double overtime. That's a moment you want back if you're Edmonton, man. You got a tie game, you're on the power play, and you give that one up. Not just that one, but you give it up to that player, a guy that is a shorthanded nightmare out there. He just is. So yeah, okay, we're 4-3 now heading into the third period, and Edmonton in that third period seemed to control the pace of play. Through the first 8 minutes, Florida was simply dumping pucks and playing defense against sort of like a mirror image of game one, very much what we saw in that first game. I can't remember when in the period it was, but man, Draisaitl, took a puck and separated through three different Florida players with just an amazing burst of speed. He unfortunately couldn't finish on the play. Puck wouldn't sit still for him, wouldn't sit down for him. But it was one of those moments where you're just like, oh man, is he good? He's good. And then you see plays like that. It was just like, whoa, wow, yeah, I wish he could have finished that one. That was a thing of beauty. Doesn't really end up on the stat sheet, but just one of those plays. It was like kind of just one of those lights out moments. And as the period plays out, though, Florida, holding their own defensively, taking chances away from the Oilers. I thought Lusterinen had a beautiful, back check play on Perry. Perry was right up close near the net, killed that one off. And listen, Forsling had a big, big block not long before that. Forsling's just so fun to watch. Like if you're into watching defensive players, he's not that big name, but one of the most fit players in the league. Skates so well, so smooth, and just very technically sound in my opinion. He's one of those guys where every championship team needs a player like him. And yeah, he's just fit in so well for this group. Really love watching him play. Of course, it's getting down to the wire, looking like Florida's winning this one. 1942 mark. Corey Perry ties it up. Bit of a scrum out front, able to pop it in. I believe it was off a rebound. And again, the roof just comes off the building, right? The roof comes off, the floor comes off, the seats come off, like the building just kind of erupts. And we head to overtime. Head to overtime. It was in that first overtime. Marchand actually almost ended it at the 8:45 mark. Skinner able to fight it off, and then there was that second attempt that actually I think goes behind Skinner, but not in, able to get that cleared out. Perhaps a little foreshadowing as to what was to come here later on, but and some time after that, of course, was Reinhardt had a breakaway for Florida off a turnover. Can't finish that one. So we go to a second overtime, and it's Edmonton Kapanen almost ending it for the Oilers at the 7:13 mark. One of those plays where he just kind of looked up at the sky, right? 2-on-1. Bob shuts it down. And of course, this leads to not long after Brad Marchand forehand, backhand, and through the 5-hole once again to end the game and tie the series up. Like I said at the beginning, you cannot ask for a more exciting, more intriguing first two games of the series. Even if the next two games are kind of duds from an entertainment perspective, man, this has just been everything you could possibly want as a hockey fan. And I'm here for all of it, man. Give me five more of those, and that'll get me through the summer. I can promise you that. That game three will be Monday night back in Florida this time for games three and four. That puck will drop a little after 8 p.m. Cannot wait to see what happens. Just such an intriguing series. So we're going to turn the page to maybe a less fun topic, but the Dallas Stars. I did say that I would have some comments about Dallas. A little bit of a rant here. Of course, they lose to Edmonton. And of course, for me, I pushed for Dallas all year. They were my Stanley Cup pick this year. I just felt like they had been around it so much each of the last two seasons. I like the makeup of their room. I like their roster. I like their head coach. I liked everything about the team. I like the goaltending. And then, of course, you have the post game presser and the comments about Oettinger. And yes, did it seem a little out of character? Maybe not what we usually hear. We don't usually see coaches, throwing their goaltenders kind of under the bus. But I have no problem with what DeBoer said from a content perspective. He's right. He's spot on with what he had to say. I mean, Ottinger wasn't good. He wasn't good in this series at all. And yeah, of course, the blame isn't all on him. Yeah, you pull him. It's a little clunky. You pull him in that game five the way they did. I didn't have a problem with him pulling him there. I don't maybe like how he skated back out. There was maybe some miscommunication, but so this press conference happened, and my perspective is all right. Everybody's a little emotional, frustrated. This was upsetting. These are all big boys. These are all adults. You got a great GM and Jim Nill. Like this is just going to blow over. Emotions are going to calm down, and everything should be fine. There's no way you're firing Pete DeBoer. Uh, Really? Like he's gotten into three Western Conference championship rounds. You're not firing him. He's not the problem. And as I said, you have one of the most respected, one of the most um, successful general managers in Jim Nill, who is not one to, I would say, be overreactionary or let the emotions get the better of him, or heaven forbid, let the players, dictate and make decisions. So when this news came out, I had to double check it to make sure I was reading the internet right, that I wasn't being fooled, that they fired him um, just days after Tom Thibodeau getting fired from the Knicks, a different sport, right? But kind of same idea. You get to a conference final and you get fired. Like, what world are we living in? What world are we living in where this is happening, where this is okay, where this is fine? Um, One thing as I've watched, locker room clean out, I haven't watched every single player interview, but where's the accountability from the players? Like most of the time, you see players being a little contrite and maybe owning up to the fact that no, they didn't maybe play very well. They let their teammates down. They let their city down. They let their coach down. Um, I haven't heard any of that. Very little of that from these players. Like nothing that stands out that makes me think, oh, they're actually owning this. None of them are. And there's every single player in that room. That's a veteran room should be taking some ownership of this. Just absolutely ridiculous. First of all, let's look back at Jake Ottinger's numbers in this series. Game one, 27 shots, lets up 3 goals. It's an 889 save percentage. Game two, 3 goals allowed on 25 shots, 880 save percentage. 6 goals allowed on 24 shots. It's a 750 save percentage. Rebounded in game four, 935 on 31 shots, only gave up 2 goals. And then, of course, game five, it's a 0.00 save percentage, 2 goals allowed on 2 shots. Neither shot really his fault. Listen, I love Otter. I love him. He's one of my favorite goaltenders. I think he's going to be just fine after this. But you can't look at those numbers and then look at what DeBoer had to say and have any argument about it. Yeah, maybe you don't like the fact that he airs it out in public, but we all know it. We all saw it. He wasn't great. He wasn't the reason they lost the series, but he was one of the reasons they lost the series. And I mean, let's put our big boy pants on, big girl pants on here for a minute, right? Like, this is big boy hockey. You got to be able to take some criticism. How soft have we gotten here? I mean, I'm really concerned. Are we really getting this soft, and we're just letting the players can't take any criticism, can't take any heat? Like this is ridiculous. Let's read off some other stats. Let's look at some plus minus stats from the playoffs. Harley minus 10, Johnston minus 16, Sagan minus 3, Robertson minus 5, Duchesne minus 16, Marchman minus 5, Heiskanen minus 4, Ben, your captain, minus 11, Ceci minus 6, Blackwell minus 5. Shall I go on? Where's the accountability from these guys? What are we hearing from these guys here? DeBoer's out the door. He just lost his job. He's the problem. He's the reason you lost the series. How about those numbers? How about Ottinger's numbers? Like, I'm sick of this. I'm absolutely sick of this. And I just, again, with Jim Nill running the show, I am shocked. I'm shocked that they let this happen. That he essentially, they talk about, oh, all the player exit interviews and that didn't go well and this and that. And uh, are the players calling the shots? Is that really what's happening in Dallas? And if you're a Dallas fan, are you okay with that? After you read off some of these numbers I just gave you, where's the leadership in the room? I know they're talking about bringing Jamie Benn back. I don't know if I want him back if I'm Dallas. If that's the leadership in that room, hell, I don't know. I don't know if I want that in my room anymore. Especially, if that's the leadership and the way he played. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, this isn't good. This has all the makings of some major cracks in the foundation of what's been a very, very good team over the last few years, and one again that I thought was going to hoist the Stanley Cup this year. Really did. This reminds me so much of the Boston Bruins going back to June of 22. Let's go into the way back machine here for a minute. A few years ago, Boston loses Game 7 to Carolina. Now let's remember, Carolina was a 2 seed that year. Boston was the number one wild card. Boston had really struggled against Carolina, but Carolina owned us that year in the regular season. It was a lot to a little, and I don't think Boston won a game in the regular year. But Boston battled through, took that series to seven, hard fought series, one that Boston wasn't expecting to win. Okay, you lose it, hard fought battle. You're disappointed, you're frustrated, and I remember thinking, man, Cassidy got every ounce of everything out of every player in that series to get it to Game 7. Like, I thought that was one of his best coaching jobs that he had done, and then they fire him. And the only thing you can think back on is, well, you heard some rumors, oh, he wasn't great with young players, and of course, there was a whole Jake DeBrusk where DeBrusk had wanted to trade out of town before that, and I've said it on this channel a few other times. Jake DeBrusk improved so much as a 200-foot player under Bruce Cassidy. And yes, he was moaning and groaning because he got benched at one point, then he was on the fourth line for a while. But, Bruce had some tough love and it paid off for Jakey. It did. But Sweeney and Neely, kind of let the players dictate that. And they let a great head coach walk out the door, go to Vegas and win a championship. And of course, now you see Jimmy Montgomery out the door as well. It has all the fixings of that for me. It reminds me of that situation, and I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Dallas Stars fans out there, if you're listening, what are your thoughts on this? I want to hear from you guys. What do you how are you happy about this? Like, I'm almost lost for words. Like, are you happy with the fact you're not hearing accountability from your best players? Are you happy that DeBoer is gone? Are you frustrated that he's gone? Are you just kind of pissed off like I am that things like this are happening? And a bigger issue for me, and maybe a more of a macro level issue, is the NHL turning into the NBA. And that's not a compliment to the NBA. Like, the NBA, of course, players have a strong voice, and I'm all for players having their voice, but I don't want my players running my team. I don't want my players making management decisions or financial decisions about the team. Like, I want them to play their role and, yes, have a voice where they can. But this is a worry for me. This is a worry, no question. Um, if I'm a head coach or head coach candidate coming into interview with Jim Nill, my first question is, am I going to be allowed to criticize the players? Because it looks like the last guy wasn't allowed to do that. So I'm gonna just be blunt with Jim Nill on that one. Um, I want the job. I like your team, but I'm gonna have to coach this team the way I need to coach them, and I may need to have a little tough love on these guys sometime. So I'll be curious, who's next? You got Jay Whitcroft out there. Got left without a chair in this last round with Pittsburgh and Boston. What about Mitch Love from Washington? Does he get a look? What about Laviolette? You got Gallant out there. You got Trotz out there. Hearing some things about Trotz. What about your assistant coach, Misha Donskov? He's a guy that was kind of talked about a little bit here in Boston for a bit. Listen, Pete DeBoer is going to be just fine. I think he'd be hired already. He would have been a little bit like a Bruce Cassidy, like, oh, he's available, let's go get him. But kind of bad timing. All the jobs are locked in. And I do wonder, the question came up, oh, where were the Bruins on this? Did they know this might happen? Would it have made a difference in their timing with their hire of Marcus Sturm? I don't think so. I think they had gone down their own with Sturm enough, and I think Sturm is going to be a really good fit. Listen, I could see DeBoer with the Kings. I don't know if how long Hill is going to be in that job. You put DeBoer with Ken Holland in LA, like, oof, that could be a dynamic situation. What about putting DeBoer back in the Central Division? What about Nashville? A very underachieving, veteran-led Nashville team. That could be kind of sexy. I could get behind that, and I think that would be uh, give DeBoer an opportunity to grind his axe a little bit. He'll be back behind the bench soon. And truthfully, I do think this is one that Nill and the Stars are going to look back on and regret. Okay, end rant here. Last little bit of news today in the ECHL, the Trois-Rivieres Lions winning their first Kelly Cup. Of course, this is the ECHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, winning on home ice up in Quebec today, 4-1 versus the Toledo Walleyes. That's the Detroit Red Wings ECHL affiliate. They win this series 4-1. And doing this after they dropped the first game of the series. This was a 1-1 game into the third period, and it's Jandrick with the game winner at the 8:54 or 8:58 mark. The Lions do pop in a couple of other empty netters to seal it up. So congrats to the Lions. Great to see the Kelly Cup, if not in Maine, at least in our division. And listen, TR, they were a house this year to deal with. Maine really struggled with them. I saw them live a couple of times here in Portland. So absolutely worthy champion. So big time congrats to them. So that's what we have for you guys today. If you do like what you're hearing and seeing here on this channel, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Absolutely appreciate it. Enjoy your Sunday. And until next time, everybody, be kind, show love, and God bless.